This is the second day of the September 1981 7-day sesshin. We will continue reading on the 4 vows from the chapter on repentance resolution taken from the Sutra of the Sixth Patriarch, translated by the brothers Fang and Fang of the Buddha's Universal Church in San Francisco, California. The last 2 sentences of the last paragraph we read was, all such types of minds, we've substituted the word thoughts for minds, all such types of minds are all beings. Not only meaning, that's the meaning of the word all beings, all these thoughts. That's what he means. When he says deliver all beings, he means deliver, to be delivered from all these thoughts. All beings participate in these thoughts, manifest these thoughts of anger, greed, ambition, pride. A longing, a yearning for joy and love, and an occasional moment of that. Everyone must deliver them from his self-nature. Can they be delivered from one's self-nature? And who is doing the delivering? This is called genuine deliverance, says the Sixth Patriarch. Continues, what is the meaning of self-deliverance within one's self-nature? It is to deliver warped views, passions, ignorance, grasping, and all such beings within one's mind by means of perfect view. By means of perfect view. What is perfect view? If you climb a mountain, and there's no mountain that obstructs your view, then as you turn around, provided there are no clouds that obstruct view of the distance, then as you turn around, there's perfect view in every direction. Nothing in the way. Or is that perfect view? Is there still this I? And must know every name of every mountain? I'm not saying anything against knowing names of mountains, but in that there is a little shadow. I must do something with this view. I must take a picture. I'm not saying anything against photography. Although, when one has taken pictures all one's life and one has finally put the camera down, it's a tremendous deliverance. Because all of a sudden, when views, not always thinking, how would this look through the camera? And then how would this look to my friends? Where I've been. Because when identifies with where one has been, it's a subtle boost of the me, which is not perfect view. Perfect view, there's no me. It's as simple as that. Just mountains and clouds and valleys, hills, trees, or barren tops. It's simple. When there's perfect view, there's no me, and when there's me, there's no perfect view. Perfect view, meaning no opinion, no prejudice. No grudge. Just clarity of seeing, hearing, feeling. With no thought of gain or fear of loss. No thought of success or fear of failure. To deliver warped views, passions. This word passion will come up in the second vow, so we'll talk about that then. Grasping. Always wanting to hold on to something, to have it for oneself. To possess. In German the word is besitzen, it means to sit on it. So if you want to get it, you have to push me over, and that won't be easy. Can something be seen without any thought of ownership cropping up, wanting to have it, wanting to do something about it, with it? Making a poem about it, or a profound philosophical statement. Remember one time we were in Colorado, I'd gone into a very deserted canyon. The road was getting kind of shaky, so we left the car behind and just walked. There was a tremendous silence in that narrow red canyon. And some huge plants were growing there. And I stood in front of one of those plants looking at it. It's taller than I was. And there were all kinds of little ants and insects crawling in and out of little openings and cavities. And some such profound observation popped in the head with some sentence which sounded pretty good about these animals. I don't remember it anymore. And then the ridiculousness of this became so evident. Here, again, one wanted to establish oneself with something. And the instant of seeing that was the end of it. And then there was just that. As soon as you have perfect view, says Wei Nang, as soon as you have, or let's rather say as there is. I don't know if the Chinese say I have. As soon as there is perfect view, because you don't have it, it's there. When you're not there, to want to have it. As soon as there's perfect view, then the wisdom of Bodhi will demolish those ignorant, grasping, deluded, and wishful beings. The wisdom of Bodhi The seeing is the wisdom of Bodhi. The seeing is the right action, either doing or not doing. Bodhi means awakened, clear. Perfect view and wisdom and Bodhi go together, and compassion and love. If that's not there, then something is lacking. That's why when we return the merits, this tradition of returning the merits of the chant to Buddha, Manjusri, Avalokiteshvara and Bahadra. Buddha, the whole thing. And then if you want to divide it up, as we always want to do, Manjusri is wisdom, Avalokita, love, Kanon, Kuan Yin, that's Avalokita. And Bahadra is action. Are they three parts of the Buddha? What an idea. This is total living, total functioning. Seeing, loving, acting, all one. Which doesn't always mean immediately having a plan of what one is going to do. One may not. The action may be more seeing, patient seeing, inquiring. Wisdom of Bodhi will demolish those ignorant, grasping, deluded, and wishful beings. Some people mention in Doksan fear of being demolished, annihilated. Maybe an inkling of something being demolished, annihilated. One isn't so clear. One is so identified with the body. Everything is the body. The name is the body. One's name is identified with one's body, one's feelings, one's images. And yet they're not. The body can function perfectly well without any images, as a matter of fact, much more healthily. It's the images that really take toll. They become deflated and depressed, or elated and exuberant, which is already the cause of the next deflation and depression. Always images. One person mentioned it in Doksan. Yesterday during a Teisha became very clear. What got so very hurt recently was an image of oneself and of the other person. It became clear. For the first time, it wasn't just these redundant words that are always being said. One saw it for oneself. And that is deliverance. Maybe only for an instant. At that instant, one doesn't think, will it last? That's already another image of permanence. We really love our little grasping, deluded, wishful beings, don't we? They're so much part of us. We feel comfortable with them. How is it going to be without them? These are the thinking little beings. This is why total questioning at times becomes very scary. Not knowing. Plunging into this not knowing into this unfamiliarity, leaving these little beings behind, or do what they want to, but not identifying with them, seeking one's comfort and refuge in. Now here comes this sentence. One delivers each by the appropriate means. Error is delivered by orthodoxy. Now one wonders what the Chinese character is of orthodoxy. Ortho always means right. Proper, correct. Doxy, I wrote it down. The word doctrine is in it. The dictionary actually said opinion, so this cannot possibly be what Wei Nang said, because there's no such thing as a right opinion. Opinions are always conditioned by how you grew up, what you're associated with, what church, what country, what ideology, what parents, what class, economic, etc. Or if you react and revolt against that, you associate yourself with a new movement and allow yourself to be conditioned by those opinions. Error is delivered by right doxy. Doxy, well, let's leave that. Cannot be anything but right view, right seeing, or right thinking. Thinking which comes out of no motive. No wanting something for oneself or one's group. Thinking clearly. Thinking out of clarity, out of emptiness. The emptiness of a particular perspective. That delivers error. Then error is detected and not fallen for. It doesn't influence one. Delusion is delivered by realization. It's always saying the same things and using a few different words to give all of these words a chance to be aired. It's always the same thing. Realization of what? No me. No coloration. No barriers. No obstructions. Freedom. Not from this or that, but freedom. Ignorance is delivered by knowledge. Not book knowledge or piled up knowledge over the years about how to do this or that. Knowledge meaning understanding. Deep understanding. How things come about and how they come to an end. What brings about sorrow and how sorrow comes to an end. Ignorance, meaning ignorance also of who one is. Beyond all these ideas and images and compulsions about oneself. Understanding all that, and in the understanding going beyond. Evil is delivered by virtue. A very dangerous sentence in the hands of narrow-minded people. Virtue is nothing that is trainable or learnable. Bankei practically lost his life trying to find out what is virtue. Not satisfied with any answer. Till he awoke to the fact that he had never been born. Never been born. Which means no me, no Bankei, with all this previous conditioning. At that instant, where is there evil? Evil spirits. Some people are so impressed by evil spirits or ghosts. One reads about it, one hears about it, maybe one has experienced it oneself. There's no book that has more vivid description of evil, malevolent entities or ghosts than the Tibetan Book of the Dead. It has the same amount of description of benevolent Buddhas, bright light and different colors, each color standing for something, which the departed is now encountering. First the bright light and all these benevolent Buddhas, and then as one sinks low and low, all these evil spirits inhabiting all these bardos, realms. But as this departed spirit, whatever that is, travels through all these realms, the attending priest whispers this to the departed ear, into the departed person's ear. The ear is still there. Or else he can whisper into it. But one could imagine an ear too. There's no limit to human imagination. No limit. And we all fall for it. Why do we love it so much? Because life is so dull and uninteresting. So this is what the priest whispers into this ear. Hey, remember or listen, whatever you encounter, without exception, is the fabrication of your own mind. Something like that. You can read it up and correct me. And that Aldous Huxley says in his book, Doors of Perception, that came to him when he took this mescaline and was quite overwhelmed by all he saw and understood. He remembered this sentence from the Tibetan Book of the Dead, and he said, this could be great comfort if this was piped or said or announced ever so often in a place where demented people, schizophrenic, paranoid people, are herded together, live, institutionalized. If someone could remind them, all of this is the fabrication of your own mind. But it isn't that simple. Because a person like that thinks that you are fabricating. That you don't see something that they see very clearly. So, in that case, rather to listen to a person like that and share in what they see. And then maybe one will do something or not. I don't know. Leave it up to each instant. They have no ideas about how to deal with people, how to deal with anybody. Dealing is already such a cruel word. Evil is delivered by virtue. Good and evil. What is evil? I don't know. There's cruel upbringing and then cruel action. The more a human being has been tortured, himself or herself, the more there will be torture of others. That's a fact which has been established. To wish somebody evil out of feelings of revenge, can that be cleared up by seeing? Can that be detected? If not, it goes on, it takes place. If there's thorough understanding of virtue, then all evil vanishes. The two can't exist side by side. There's something supposedly said by the Buddha from the Dhammapada. And here he quotes an angry person. He abused me, he beat me, he defeated me, he robbed me. End of quote. In those who harbor such thoughts, hatred will never cease. In those who do not harbor such thoughts, just not harbor them. They come and let them go. Don't derive pleasure out of harboring them. It's a meager pleasure. Or does one? Can one see that? Those who do not harbor such thoughts, in those who do not harbor such thoughts, hatred will cease. Hatred ceases at the instant of not harboring. The not harboring is the end of hatred. The harboring brings thoughts of hatred. And then the Buddha continues, for hatred does not cease by hatred anytime. How could it? Hatred ceases by love. This is an eternal law. When hatred ceases, there is love. Love doesn't have to demolish anything. It's there. When hatred ceases. When thoughts of injury sustained are let go, are not harbored. Being delivered in this way is called genuine deliverance. As to the vow to cut off limitless passions, it is to use the prajna wisdom of self-nature to eradicate empty and false thinking from the mind. Here the vow is, at that time with this teacher, we vow to cut off the limitless passions within our own minds. We say here, endless blind passions, I vow to uproot. I thought a long time about this, the formulation of the second vow. The passions in there, that word, the choice of the word passions, even though it is blind passions. And the word uproot. Who's doing the uprooting? I vow to uproot. I'm going to get out there and uproot it. Or in there. Isn't it all a matter of seeing, understanding, at the root? We talked before breakfast about hunger coming up, an empty, sort of uncomfortable, gnawing feeling, stomach contractions. Maybe at the same time blood sugar is low, body shakes a little bit, heart beats a little bit stronger. It's all factual. It's going on. As long as there's nothing to eat, but the meal is being prepared. It's not that one has to look for some. Here, sitting, can that just be right there? Who or what am I? And not say hungry. Then you already have closed the door. All of that moo. If one doesn't question in this wise, these feelings will automatically translate themselves into all kinds of visions of the desired object. Food, or women, or men, or whatever. Is there anything wrong with the passion or the urge, biological urge that comes up? It's natural enough, isn't it? And there are occasions for expressing this directly, naturally, simply. But we live in our thoughts and fantasies, and we love to live there. It's our pleasure, because life is so dull, so boring, so eventless. So we imagine all things, all kinds of things that we could be doing or enjoying. And we miss what's going on right now. We don't live and feel that deeply, profoundly, all the way through. Yearnings that come up, what's wrong with them? Can they be seen so they're not blind? Yearning for revenge, can it be seen, acknowledged? Not blindly translate itself in fantasies of how this revenge is going to be carried out, either by oneself or by circumstances. Sometimes oneself is not the executioner, but one hopes circumstances will be such and such. Fantasizing, rather than seeing this urge for revenge in oneself. It needs to be seen, totally, completely, all the way through. And in such seeing, it is delivered. The revengeful being is delivered. Sixth Patriarch says to cut off limitless passions, it is to use prajna wisdom, the wisdom that comes out of seeing, the wisdom that is the seeing, which comes out of self-nature. Wow, so many things come out of. Always the same thing, it's always one thing. The clarity of no bias, no conditioning, which is the me. That eradicates empty and false thinking from the mind. It really does. One doesn't really remember anymore what went on. It's eradicated. One has a vague memory of it. But it's irrelevant. It doesn't need to be sustained and supported and reinforced. Remember in taking psychology courses at school, there was this one course on learning, which was given by a professor who was a real buff on learning. It was his specialty. Learning, I don't remember anymore. A lot of rats were involved. But this thing I remember, he said, when you haven't learned something, like a name or a telephone number, I always had to work with very simple things. Simplistic things, let's put it this way. Why haven't you learned? Why have you forgotten it again? Why haven't you learned? The answer being it hasn't been pounded in enough. Hasn't been memorized over and over and over. Sustained, nurtured, repeated. If that doesn't take place, then things don't stick. Also, if one is in a situation and one is so attentive, so intensely listening, and all there, then all the energy is in the listening and in the being there. And it isn't used to mark down all that, what's going on. So one forgets again. Also, the energy of attention has this capacity of erasing. It's a fact, which each one can prove for himself or herself. Things can be erased, become erased in intense energy, which is attention, which is seeing, which is love and compassion. Why should anything be chalked up or down? To eradicate empty and false thinking. It doesn't say to eradicate thinking. We need to think very clearly. Not let somebody else do the thinking for one. The first Taisho given here, I read a quote from Mein Kampf by Adolf Hitler, where he says, what good fortune for rulers that the people don't think. Meaning that they just obey and follow, conform. Beware of that. It's difficult to think for oneself, and it's dangerous. Other people may not like one for that. One may be called arrogant. or conceited, and there may be arrogance in conceit if one is able to think freely. That has to be seen by each free thinker. But can one start thinking independently? One doesn't know where to start, because one is so heavily indoctrinated left and right, starting since time immemorial, or let's at least say starting with one's early babyhood. Thinking clearly. There's no rush in that. What's rushing and gushing out is usually opinions. To think clearly, one needs a bit of time and space to look at the whole situation from many different angles. Unless it's immediately clear, then there's no problem. But one is so afraid to think too far, because immediately one sort of touches forbidden territory. Or doesn't one? Is there forbidden territory for one any place? Doesn't that need to be examined? As to the vow to study the limitless Dharma, this is the necessity to practice constantly the orthodox Dharma of seeing into oneself nature. This is the meaning of genuine learning. As to the vow to study the limitless Dharma, this is the necessity to practice constantly the Dharma of seeing into oneself nature, which is at root clear, quiet, and empty. The seeing being the self-nature. Being clear, quiet, and empty. We've recently changed the Sutra treasure to Dharma treasure, because it is not limited to studying sutras, for heaven's sakes. And nobody probably ever bothered to think or thought that. We say Dharma gates beyond measure. That's very good. Dharma gates beyond measure I vow to penetrate. Oh no, the sutra treasure that comes in a refuge, it doesn't come in this. We'll talk about the refuges some other time. This vow is Dharma gates beyond measure I vow to penetrate. Beyond measure. We always measure. Compare ourselves to others who are better than we are, don't we? Or who are not quite as good as we are. That gives a boost. This is how we manipulate our energies. To give ourselves a boost, which is already the seed of deflation. Beyond measure. Oneself is this Dharma gate every instant, as one is, not measuring how one is. No words for it. No comparison for it. no diagnosis. Penetrating, meaning to be with completely, questioning it. Not just say, well, I got to accept that, that's the way I am. Who is accepting? What? And there's the gulf again, the gap, the chasm. Can the moo, the who, fill that chasm completely? They're just being the questioning of whatever is, not knowing what is, and yet not repressing or condemning what is. The moo just not allowing this translation into fantasy of these states of the body to take place. Always freshly. Not how did I do it yesterday when things went so well? And you're taking the elevator into memory, into the memory chamber, or as we sometimes call it, the files, the filing cabinet. The slideshow, how things were. And you know, a slideshow never shows the whole trip, only the high points. Genuine learning from moment to moment, always fresh. Not relying on what was. A minute ago, or a day, or a session ago. It's gone. Vorbei. Finished. Always learning freshly. Moo. What am I? Beyond measure. Limitless. Not limiting what we are by what we know or think about ourselves. We will end here for today. The four vows.
All beings without number